Welcome back. Today we're going to talk about some interesting things, and first subscribe to the channel down below, that little red button, and we're going to talk about some Speedway and a lot more, so stay tuned. We'll be right back. Today we're going to take a trip down memory lane, back to the early days of the American Speedway back in the 1970s, the glory days, the days that we thought would never end. We're going to talk about that right now. Today we're going to talk not about the Speedway riders, about the atmosphere, about what's going on, mainly the Costa Mesa Fairgrounds, but we're going to talk about what it was like to be a Speedway fan in the 1970s. The first thing you think of is what? Gene, the dancing machine. Do you know who Gene was? Gene was a very famous party animal in the stands, and he would go in the stands and ignite the fans to cheer more beer. It was a party animal. Everybody loved Gene, the dancing machine. It was just a total party. I mean, Gene was up there going crazy. Sometimes he would climb on the crash wall where the Speedway crash wall is, and he would be walking drunk on this crash wall. Walking, and then all of a sudden he would yell, "More beer!" And everyone would go, "Yeah, Gene!" It was awesome. Gene was the dancing machine. Is like yelling, "More beer, everybody!" But he was not going to pay for that beer for everybody. He just wanted you to buy. Maybe he had a percentage at the concession stands. But Gene was walking and he was yelling, "More beer!" And then he slip and he would fall. And he would fall on his groin, do the splits on the crash wall. And he sang in soprano after that. Besides watching the Speedway races when I was a little kid, one of my favorite parts of the Speedway was the fights. Every Friday night there was fights. There were drunk guys in the stands. They just wanted something to do, so they'd go there and drink a lot of alcohol, and then they would fight. So everyone stood, "Fight over there!" And then a little bit later, "Fight over there!" There was fights everywhere, and I was like, right on. You got the Speedway, and then you got the fights. I wasn't really into chicks at that time. Those were the days of the SRA. Do you remember the SRA? Do you know the SRA? The Speedway Racing Association. That was governed by the president, Jerry Fairchild, and they guaranteed like 35% of the gate to the motorcycle riders. We liked that as riders. Some of the riders, like Mike Bass, they would go home with $1,000 a night. Only the winners got a lot of money, but they were making a living. They were making like $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 a year if they were good. It was great. Those were the glory days of Speedway when the SRA was governing it. I think back in those days, the DG dirt was a lot cheaper. Why? Because they had lots of dirt on the outside. We saw guys like in the last blog, Danny Berserko Becker riding that crash wall on the wheelie. We saw lots of riders. They loved the outside. The outside had lots of traction for passing. And Billy Gray was one of the guys too. And also if you sat behind the wall, you got lots of dirt in your Coke or beer. And it was just crazy the amount of dirt that flew over. We used to have like mass tear-offs, and the dirt would go wah, and would go all over the face mask. And we loved sitting where the mud was flying in our faces. Another great thing about early day Speedway back in the 70s was the smell. The castor oil and the nitro. They burned nitro in those days. And the castor oil. It smelled like heaven. It was the most beautiful smell in the world, the castor oil. And it was just fantastic. I was a little young at that time, but one of the reasons why the 70s was so fantastic for Speedway was the chicks, the girls. All the hot looking chicks went to the Speedway. I was just a little kid, I didn't really pay attention that much. I liked the fights a little better, but the girls were really beautiful and the guys followed. It was just a hangout place to be. The chicks all came and then the guys came. They even had a Fox night. A Bruce Penhall, Bruce the Fox Penhall, Fox night. All the chicks were free and all the dudes had to pay. That's not fair. And who could forget Larry Huffman? Larry Huffman, the voice of the Grant Boys. And he was the announcer at the Speedway. And Larry was just an amazing announcer. He would just electrify the crowd every Friday night at Costa Mesa Fairgrounds. He was just amazing. He would just make a boring race exciting. He was just an amazing announcer. And he would do the Huffman Shuffle. The 1970s, who could forget those days? The glory days of Speedway. They were just absolutely great. Everyone just had a good time. The Speedway was fantastic. The living legends of the 70s. There can be no other better group of Speedway riders ever, including my group or any group. The group now, they can't compare. Sorry guys. But the 1970s group, the Bass Brothers, the Woods, everybody was just amazing. You had the Speedway races, and then you had the activity in the stands, the smell of the Speedway bikes, Larry Huffman, the fights, the chicks, everything! Costa Mesa Fairgrounds Friday night was a place to be. Well, that's it. 1970s was one of the most amazing times in U.S. Speedway history. The revival of Speedway in 1968, and it carried through the 70s. So we want to thank you so much for watching the blog, my blog today. And we ask that you go ahead and subscribe. There's other videos right here you can go ahead and watch. That's fantastic. That was a really great era. So thank you so much for watching. And please like, share, subscribe, and ring that bell.